you will get that, this meeting's being recorded. You can hit the got it button. We are recording this just so that we can capture everyone's feedback and we have something to reference back to when we, continue to make our podcast better and to meet your needs. If you know how to change your display name, you can change it with your full name and organization just so we know where you're coming in from, or you can type in the chat, say hi, tell us where you're coming from and your organization. Please feel free to unmute yourself, especially during the breakout groups. We'd love to see your faces as well, so feel free to turn on your video. You can also type in the chat. Remember, there are no such thing as a bad question or feedback throughout this. So please, the more feedback, the better. And if you have any technical difficulties throughout today, you can private chat David Mazza, and he will help you with all your technical issues, which hopefully you have none. But thank you, Dave, for being here for us today. All right, and I'll pass it over to Scott, and we're going to get into our first poll questions.
All right, well, thank you, Chelsea. Now to get started, we're going to kick things off with our first poll, which has 2 questions, which, as you see, Dave is pulling up. First poll question is, number 1, have you heard of the podcast? The answers are yes, maybe, you think so, or no. Second poll question is, have you listened to the podcast? And there's 4 answers there. Either yes, you've listened to all the episodes, yes, you've listened to some of them, yes, but maybe just 1 or 2 episodes, or no, not yet. So we'll give everybody another second or 2 to pick your answers.
And we're sharing results.
Okay. Well, the results look pretty good. Number 1, have you heard of the podcast? A little over 80% of you have. And then 8% think so, maybe. But that's a really good, pretty good number there. And the second question, have you listened to the podcast? And, looks like most of you have listened to at least 1 or 2 episodes. But that's okay that there's a third of you that haven't. And that's part of what today is about, letting you know more about the podcast and why it's important to help you as you go back to your communities, hopefully to share it. And of course, for us to improve it and make it better for you.
Definitely. Thanks, Scott.
Yeah, thank you.
All right, and Jada just shared the podcast page in the chat, so feel free to save that. And I'm going to chat just a little bit about the history of the podcast. So we launched What Parents Are Saying back in December of 2021, and we currently have 9 episodes. It is hosted by Debbie Burnt, who is the director of Parent Movement 2.0. The podcast features discussions with parents, caregivers, and experts that focus really on youth substance use and mental health. We decided to start the podcast because we wanted to create a platform for where real-life parents, caregivers, and experts could come and share their unique knowledge and their different perspectives and all their, different experiences with navigating these important issues. With those, all of our users and our listeners out there. The podcast also provided another way for the campaign to help parents, our audiences, right? Our parents, caregivers, our educators, and community members to get informed, be prepared, and to take action to prevent underage drinking and other drug use. So that's a bit about the campaign. Now I'm going to talk through our episodes, just a brief overview. As you all mentioned, some of you may have listened to some of these, but we currently have 9. So our first episode ever was in December 2021, Parenting Through the Holidays. And we have 3 mothers who are across the country, and they all hopped on and we talked a bit about, how they talk to their kids during the holidays. And since, that culture of drinking could be present, and how they talk to them about that. We had an expert chat with Dr. Leslie Walker Harding, who has 25 years experience in adolescent substance use prevention, and she talked a lot about the why it's such a problem and the problematic things that go on, really like that kind of scientific view. We had a spotlight on opioids where we had two parents come and talk about youth opioid prevention and safety. We had another parent chat where a mother came and she described a lot about how her Asian American culture values really shaped her parenting around having that talk about substance use prevention. We had an expert chat with two doctors from the Institute of Behavioral Health, and they talked a lot about one choice and gave really interesting statistics around where we are now versus where we were years ago with substance use in high school and with adolescents. We had a parenting and recovery episode where we had a father join. He is present in the substance use field, but he's also in recovery. So he gave a really interesting perspective on how he talks with his kids about it. On the next slide, we have 3 more that I'll talk about. We did go into Red Ribbon Week a bit. We had a great guest, Jamila Robinson from the DEA, and she talked about how their work with communities and kind of around Red Ribbon Week and what they do. We also had one of our partners join and one of her parents, and they talk about some great stories that they had and some of their products that they used during that time. And then we had our two episode series. So Brain-Based Parenting, it's a 3-part series with Dr. Crystal Collier, and she talks all about the brain, and oh my gosh, it's so interesting, and it's a really, really great one. I love all of them, but this one was just really, really interesting and eye-opening, and we decided to split it into 3 different parts. And then our latest one is on grand families, and we talk a bit about what it's like. One of our guests is a grandmother, but she works more in the field with grand families and kind of navigating the challenges that can come with that. And we also talked with a grandparent who is parenting her grandson and how the resources she's had to use to walk through substance use prevention with him. So really great episodes. If you haven't been able to listen to all of them yet, pop them in while you're in the car. But yeah, so that is an overview of all of our episodes. And before we go into our breakouts, we do have another set of poll questions that we want to ask.
Thank you, Chelsea. So yeah, we're going into our second poll, which has 3 questions to it, which, as you see, Dave is pulling up now. And again, we use these poll questions to gather your perspectives on different concepts or ideas. The results help us make sure we're creating resources that meet your needs and the needs of your communities. So the first poll question, or poll question number 3, which type of podcast guest is your favorite? It can be parent caregiver chats, experts, both, or you're not sure because you haven't listened yet. And then you'll see there's a little scroll down on the right side. If you scroll down, you'll come to the second question, which is, what is your favorite episode format? Do you like just a single episode or a series of episodes, or you're not sure? And then the third one down, last but not least, what is your favorite topic or content format? The 3 potential answers there are a specific topic, spotlights, discussions of opioids, cannabis, so specific things. Do you like to podcast that are a little bit more about general substance use and mental health, but nothing too specific? Or just, again, not sure because you haven't listened yet? We'll give everybody just a little bit more time to pick your answers, and then Dave will freeze the results.
And sharing results.
Great, thank you, Dave. So for that first question, which type of podcast guest is your favorite? Looks like most of you prefer to have a combination of parent caregivers or experts, which is good. That's what we've been doing so far, kind of a combination of the two. Second question down, what is your favorite episode format? And a little bit over the board. Some of you like single episodes, some of you like a series of episodes. So it's good that there's a broad mixture there of what you like and don't like. The third one, what is your favorite topic or content format? And looks like vast majority of you prefer a specific topic spotlight. So spotlight on opioids, cannabis. So that's great to hear as well.
Yeah, thanks everybody.
Thank you. Okay. Well, now we're going to split into our first breakout room. We'd like to hear your feedback about current podcast content and ideas for future content. Now, the way that this will work is each session is led by a moderator from the Talk They Hear You team, and a campaign team member will also be in there to take notes. Just please remember, the more feedback that everybody gives us and the more honest your feedback is, the better. We'll have about 10 minutes or so to discuss before we return to the full group to talk about some of the ideas that we learned, heard from you in the breakout rooms. So Dave will create. Well, everyone, thank you very much. I hope you had a great breakout room. We're going to learn more about what you discussed in a second. I'm going to turn things over now to my colleague, Chelsea.
Yes. Thank you, everybody. Scott, my breakout room, we had some really good conversation. I'm sure you did as well. So we'll have Nadia from my room just kind of talk a bit about just some high level things that we learned.
Hi, everyone. So one of the topics that we've heard some feedback about was the brain-based parenting episode. And we just heard a little bit about how it started a little bit slow, but it got very, very interesting and is something that all parents should hear. And then also some of the topics that we would like to talk about further are more about transparent conversations from parents and how they have conversations with their kids, how they got more educated and trained. So just more real life examples and experiences from parents. And just to shift the focus more to parents and caregivers. And then a topic that we'd like to also discuss going forward are prescription drugs, synthetic drugs, and fentanyl.
Great, thanks, Nadia.
Thanks,
And Jada, for your group?
Yes, in our group, brain-based parenting was also very popular, which I can see why. Someone just said that they wish that the handouts were giving more directions in what to do more so than just listing things out, and I agree with that. Some possible topics that we could have in the future, they said that they would like to see how youth are accessing vapes, fentanyl use, and guns and substance use, as well as gambling.
Very interesting. Great.
And then Chelsea, since we wish we'd had more time in our group, a lot of great ideas. We told people if they had ideas and they didn't get a chance to share them, just to let us know in the chat. Type out their ideas for future content for podcast, and then we'll be able to capture their ideas if they didn't get a chance to verbally talk about it in the breakout room.
Yes, that's great point, Scott. While we are recording this, there's also a recording of the recording, quote unquote, of the chat that we'll be able to access. So any other feedback that you might not have been able to say, please add there. So thanks, everybody. That was great. All right, so we're going to move on and talk a bit about the performance statistics for the podcast and where you can listen, and then how you can share it with your communities. So I think it was just Friday we hit our 2,000 listens, which downloads means listens in the world where we collect our statistics. So yay, that's very exciting for us. So we have just a little slightly over 2,000 since our launch in December of 2021. And our first episode of Parenting Through the Holidays has our most listens right now at 373. You can listen to our podcast anywhere. We use this really cool service called Buzzsprout, where all of our podcasts are housed, and we link it out to almost every podcast platform that there is. If for some reason you use a podcast platform that you cannot find it, please reach out to us and we will look into it. We also have other ways that you can get the podcast. So we have the Talk They Hear You, we have a YouTube playlist, and all of our recordings are also available there. And we have them on Buzzsprout links. Right now, Buzzsprout has our most percentage of listeners, and that's probably because on our website, we link to specifically to that Buzzsprout link per episode. So users probably will click on that and listen right from their computers. But if you listen to podcasts regularly and you haven't listened to our episodes, feel free to Apple Podcasts, Spotify, Google Podcasts, Amazon, and you can subscribe and get alerts for when we post new ones. We also share the podcast in our monthly newsletters, but we also you should all receive those pre-crafted social media posts, and we have some social media posts that we create for you all to repost to your social media and to your communities. And I know that some of you have already been doing that because we can see, all of the promotion that you've already been doing for the podcast. But if you haven't already, just know that we do in our e-newsletters, when we do send the pre-crafted social media, there are social media posts that will have the podcasts for you with the links. All right, and then we're going to go into our final poll, and we want to know if you have shared and how you've shared the podcast. Is it through your social media channels, on your website, just specifically to friends and family? And if you haven't, will you plan to, or you don't plan to, or if you've shared it in another way that we haven't listed here, please add it into the chat box and let us know. We'll give everybody a minute. All right, looking like people are adding. I can see all the numbers going up. Social media has a few, friends and family. Great, thanks, Dave. And some of you haven't, but will now. And some of you put other, and if you want to add it in the chat box, please do. But that's great. Thank you for sharing, and any share is fantastic. Oh, Catherine, great. And presentations. That's fantastic. That's great. All right. I think we're moving into our next breakout really quick, which is great. So we can all keep talking.
Okay. Thank you, Chelsea. Yep. So yeah, now we're going to go split into our next breakout rooms so we can hear all your feedback about the podcast technical approach, its formatting structure, and the marketing we do for it. Dave will send everyone into those breakout sessions. And again, just like before, they'll be led. All right, welcome back, everybody. We'll give you a few more seconds for everyone to come join back into the main room, and then we'll get started.
About 20 seconds left.
Thank you, Dave.
Hey, Scott.
Hi, Chelsea.
And they will be closing now.
All right, well, everybody, welcome back. Chelsea, I'd like to turn it back over to you, and we'll hear what the breakout room said.
Yeah, thanks, everybody. That was great. Nadia, if you want to hop in for our last debrief.
Yeah, sure. So some of the discussions we had were kind of starting the podcast by grabbing the audience's attention, and maybe leaving the commercial breaks and disclaimers towards the middle or the end. And then something else that was interesting that was brought up was using trigger warnings or kind of giving heads up where needed. So if anyone needs to fast forward, they can. And then another thing that was brought up was having maybe trying to get a celebrity spokesperson And we as the campaign team have discussed this and love the idea. So hopefully in the future we could get that done.
Yeah. Thanks, Nadia. And thanks, group. It was great to talk with you all. And Jada?
Yes, we had so much good conversation. So for our group, they would prefer that there wouldn't be any commercial breaks because that would be a chance for someone to possibly walk away from the podcast. So they would not like that. Veronica Dowell told us that she loves the format of the podcast currently because it flows really well. And a really good recommendation was from Veronica Osborne, where she said she enjoys the crime podcast because of how engaging they are. So if we could relate emotional attachment to certain incidents like fentanyl and provide solutions for families, that'd be really helpful.
Great. Great feedback, everybody. Thank you so much. I'm actually going to pass it back over to Jada. And for those, just a little introduction for Jada. She is our podcast producer. She does all the back end work and all the editing and the recordings and is just a magician when it comes to that. So Jada's going to talk a bit about our upcoming episodes.
Okay, hi everyone. So as we look ahead, there's going to be some exciting features that I'd like to discuss. The upcoming podcast episode topics include Teens Talk, where we're going to hear from students that are part of the substance-free athletics program in their schools. We also met with community partners that wanted to share their experience with hosting the Talk They Hear You Parents Night Out event. These are two fantastic episodes that will be published in early March and early April. We're also planning to do an episode where we hear from you guys, our prevention partners, on how you're using the campaign in your communities and some of your stories along the way. We'll be recruiting for that one soon, but if you're interested, please leave a message in the chat. We'd be really interested in reaching out to you. And thank you guys so much for all of your input today. We'll really be taking all of the feedback and using it in future episodes. And we really look forward to getting those out to you.
Yes, thank you so much, Jada. And again, please let us know. We'd love to share your success stories in kind of a mashup podcast. That's kind of our thought for wrapping up kind of this year of podcasts. All right, so but I'm going to touch on these next two several bullets before we call it a day. We have a call for resources request that we are going to be sending out soon. SAMHSA is interested in showcasing your campaign strategies and innovations with current and future partners across the country in a new Talk They Hear You implementation guide. So we want to hear what's worked for you, how you've customized the campaign for your community, and any other strategies or resources that you've developed. You should expect to receive a request from us very soon. It's going to come in that e-blast form that all of our newsletters and other information comes in. And we also are hoping to have a larger discussion on this during our next campaign feedback session, which is going to be in April. It's April 18th, same time, same place. So we really hope you can participate in that. And now I'm going to pass it to Scott to wrap us up.
Great. Thank you, Chelsea. So again, I'd like to thank everybody too for all your feedback today. And we really encourage you to contact us, contact me at the email address that you see on the screen there, underagedrinking@samhsa.hhs.gov. If you have any questions or feedback at any time, we're here to help, especially if it's a question that maybe we missed today or anything that you need down the road, let us know. Email is a great way to let us know. So we would appreciate you guys doing that. And if you haven't done so already, we'd like to encourage you to sign up for our campaign e-newsletter using the link on the screen, which Jada is adding to the chat box. Additionally, you can follow SAMHSA and the Talk They Hear You campaign on the social media platforms that you see listed on the slide. And you can engage with us online using the Talk They Hear You hashtag. Please stay tuned for the recap email with more information and some of the themes that we touched on today. And now I'd like to turn things back over to Chelsea for some closing remarks.
Yes, thank you, everybody. You really are the heartbeat of our campaign, and we wouldn't be really anywhere without the input that you give us. So thank you again for joining us today. I know it's 3:01 Eastern time, so we're a minute over, but if you are interested in being a part of our, Talk They Hear You champion team and providing feedback on a regular basis, just let us know. We're going to continue to send these emails, and please continue to join these calls. And we just really appreciate you. Rob, I don't know if you want to.
No, I would just echo your sentiments and just saying, this campaign has been built by you and for you. So there's nothing you're going to say that's going to hurt any of us or our feelings. We will take direction, and if we can do it, we certainly will. And I could only just say thank you. We've had a good run with this campaign. The podcast has done an exceptional job, and we're looking for more topics. And I'm just going to put a plug out for those of you who are parents and caregivers. In your coalitions, we would love to feature your people as a part of a podcast as well. We like it to be as organic as possible, and that really is the goal here. So let us know more. We'll talk later, and we thank you for your time today.
All right. Thanks, everybody. Have a great rest of your day, and we will talk soon.
Bye, everyone. Thank you.
Bye.